20 miles remaining to the base, we split up. We became two pairs. The F-5 is a very noble and fine aircraft. The F-5 is a sleek, well-proportioned fighter, and firstly, it has a much quicker turnaround time. It malfunctions less, and most importantly, it is very hard to detect, whether visually or on radar. This was an advantage of the F-5. The F-5 has excellent maneuverability. Even for bombing missions, the F-5 maneuvers very comfortably. In the early days of the war, for Mosul and Kirkuk Airbases, we used the pop-up technique. Pop-up is not a simple technique. We would approach the initial point at a very low altitude. One by one, at 5-second intervals, we would pull the aircraft up with 4 or 5 Gs to reach our final altitude. At the apex, at 6,000 or 8,000 feet, we would roll the aircraft inverted. We would pull it inverted until we were over the target point. Then we would roll out and stabilize. At a specific altitude over the target, we would release the bombs. Our aircraft had neither a radar warning receiver nor a jammer. Nothing. There wasn't even a backseat pilot to watch our six. As the famous slogan of the reconnaissance squadron said, "You are alone." We just had to go. If they locked a missile on the fighter, we still went. I don't know how to describe this to you. Look, piloting, and especially piloting during wartime, is truly not a simple job. Imagine you are sitting in an aircraft heading to a place where everyone is waiting for the aircraft to arrive, so they can stop your entry with anti-aircraft fire, meaning a mass of various air defense equipment. Now, you are in an F-5 aircraft that has no radar warning system to let you know from a distance if they have locked onto you. It has no ECM pod to let you jam the missile site's radar. The F-5 pilots fought in the war truly, bravely, and with great zeal. Intelligence operations tells you before the mission that there is a SAM site here. There is another missile there. We never said the target you gave us has high risk, and simultaneously our fighter lacks complex defensive systems. We accepted it very easily and went, and we made no objections. Regarding the Iraqi Army's air bases, a few of their bases were very powerful and very important. One of them was Kirkuk Airbase, and the next was Shoyaba Airbase. Shoyaba was taken out of the Iraqi Army's operational cycle very quickly because it fell under the fire of our ground force artillery east of Basra. But Kirkuk Air Base in northern Iraq was a very serious threat to our northwest and was a very operational and important base. We had nicknamed Kirkuk Air Base the Hornet's Nest. It housed various types of aircraft, and the bulk of flights that Iraqi aircraft made to bomb our country originated from Kirkuk Air Base. Let me tell you a memory in this regard. I was sitting facing the squadron window. I told the command post that we are in the squadron. The phone rang. I picked up the receiver and saw it was General Baghai. He asked me, "What's the news?" I said, "We are sitting here in the squadron." He said, "They just bombed the vicinity of Aviation Airbase. Be careful, they might come for you too." I told Mr. Shah Safi, who was with me in the squadron building, "Hassan, get up. Let's go to alert. They might bomb the base right now." When we got into the car and reached the alert shelter, I went again to scan the area's sky. I heard the sound of aircraft coming. 4 jets came and bombed the administrative section of our base, meaning they bombed the maintenance section in front of the control tower, the runway, and the facilities. I saw they had dropped cluster bombs on the runway too. Cluster bombs exploded momentarily. I went and started up the aircraft. No matter how much I called, I saw no one was answering. We came out and saw they had bombed a section in front of the maintenance squadron. Several of the maintenance guys had been killed. Anyway, they had thrown the base into chaos. Several places had caught fire. I told Mr. Shah Safi, "Get up, let's go toward the squadrons to see how the situation is. We can't fly right now anyway. Let's go see what's going on there." As we were going along the way, we saw a truck. They had modified the back and installed benches to transport guard soldiers. It was the soldiers' shift change truck. We saw that several of these poor souls, whose shift change was due, were wounded and killed in a very bad state. I saw that the squadron building we were in, believe me, if we had stayed sitting there, we would have perhaps been hit by hundreds of shrapnel pieces. Cluster bomb shrapnel had hit the front of the squadron and exploded. Imagine, right behind where I was sitting, the wall behind me had perhaps 100 shrapnel holes in it, and the glass itself had turned into shrapnel, meaning if we had been there, we would certainly have been killed. I said these things so you can see what the effect of bombing bases is. Truly, for 1 or 2 days, we were just organizing the destruction from the bombing. For example, we found the body of a technical personnel 24 hours later behind his room. The poor soul, as soon as he heard the sound of bombing, had come out to flee when a single piece of shrapnel hit him on the forehead. See how much an aerial bombardment weakens morale. How can you not leave? Sit there while they come and bomb your living quarters, bomb your compatriots, bomb your homeland. Our next attack was Kirkuk Airbase. This was one of the very dangerous operations, because Kirkuk Airbase was one of Iraq's important bases, which defended the entire northern region of Iraq very well against our attacks. For this reason, we reached the conclusion that we must inflict a lethal blow on this airbase, because on the first day of the war, our comrades had launched a massive attack on Kirkuk Airbase, but they would rapidly repair the destruction caused by the bombing. Especially Soviet-made aircraft didn't need a very flat, smooth, and flawless runway. On very short runways, even the MiG-21 and MiG-23, as far as I know, can take off even on a flat field that isn't asphalted. Consequently, our next attack was with the goal of making it completely non-operational or completely destroying the runway. In this mission, led by Major Danishpour and another pilot whose name isn't in my mind right now, and Captain Ardestani. As usual, I was number 4 in the flight. Captain Ardestani was number 3. It was decided that we attack Kirkuk Airbase and make it completely non-operational. In this way, Mr. Danishpour planned that Captain Ardestani and I would attack the base from south to north, and he and the number 2 pilot would penetrate from the northern part of the base. Major Danishpour designed the attack route such that after the bombing, without making any extra turns, we would automatically be heading toward Iran. This way, even if we got caught in anti-aircraft fire, we would have flight power and could get away from the base. When we moved from south to north, flying toward the target, we lay down on the deck, flew at minimum altitude. Our altitude was so low that at any moment, one felt that our center-line fuel tank might hit the ground. With 20 miles remaining to the base, we split up. We became 2 pairs. Mr. Danishpour and the number 2 pilot went to attack the path from west to east, and Captain Ardestani and I attacked from south to north. Our attack was such that we attacked the enemy out of the sun. From inside the sun, this way, they wouldn't see us. We went and entered the Kirkuk-Baghdad highway. We turned, exactly one in that lane of the highway, one in this lane. They had planted trees in the middle of this highway. We had come down so low that sometimes these trees were positioned between me and Captain Ardestani. Just before the target, we pulled up to bomb the base. My pull-up had just started. Mr. Daneshpour said on the radio, "A train is coming out of the base." Suddenly, I saw a train coming out of the base. I immediately dove. I aligned myself with the train's path and started shooting at the train with the 20mm cannon. I strafed it with precision exactly along the length of the train to the end and finally pulled up. When I pulled up for the bombing, we were essentially in the middle of the base. At that same high altitude, I saw everywhere in the base was on fire. Mr. Daneshpour and Number 2 had bombed the runway and the runway surroundings very well. I don't know exactly what things had caught fire. During the operation, we heard the lovely voice of Mr. Daneshpour saying, "Guys, be careful, the AAA and SAM is firing intensely. They have created a wall of fire in your path and are firing a wave of missiles toward you." Because our altitude was low and we had surprised them, it was clear they were firing the missiles without a target. We had surprised them so much that the missiles weren't locked onto us. They were just firing a rain of aimless missiles for us, hoping they might shoot us down. I started the bombing. I'd set the bombing switch to ripple mode so the bombs would separate with a specific timing so we could bomb a larger area. I aligned the fighter with the command post building when I saw an Aviation aircraft parked on the ramp. Fortunately, this aircraft was exactly in line with the command post. I hit the Aviation. Fortunately, 2 bombs also hit the base, HQ. Captain Ardestani pulled up. He dove to bomb the target. I suddenly saw a fighter ahead, which was their scramble aircraft.
شهید اردستانی هم درست از ابتدای بانک شروع کرد بمباران کردن.
Fortunately, we returned safely to base. Exactly the day after this operation, Captain Mehdi Bakhshande had taken a very, very good photo of Kirkuk Airbase, which fortunately showed we had succeeded in inflicting very serious damage on the enemy. That Ilyushin was not just half burnt, yes, it was destroyed. Even their HQ and their runway were damaged. It was one of the very successful operations. When I saw this photo, I was truly excited. Even the semi-burnt train that had exploded, they had left it right there on the rails, semi-burnt, before it had even come out of the base. One of the photos that became lasting in war memories was this very Ilyushin that we had bombed the day before. Captain Bakhshande was an F-5 pilot in the Tehran Reconnaissance Squadron. In those very first days of the war, he was detached to Tabriz Airbase. We would sometimes sit in the fighter squadron and talk about war issues. 2 days after this operation, comrades carried out a very massive operation in northern Iraq, and one of them was the bombing of the Dukhan Dam facilities. 1 hour after the bombing of the Dukhan power plant, they gave the mission to Captain Bakhshande to take photos of this bombing. Unfortunately, the enemy was both furious and had taken very, very serious damage from the operation the comrades had performed. Apparently, they created a wall of fire in front of him, and unfortunately, Captain Bakhshande's fighter was shot down, and this pilot was killed. No matter how much time passed since the start of the war, our anger increased day by day, and we had become more determined in the war. Certainly, our compatriot is grateful, and God willing, may God consider a high status for Captain Bakhshande.